everyone, this is part one of a two-part lesson. Now that you have been introduced to some trigonometry and the trigonometric ratios, we're going to start to use that information, and in this video we're going to find unknown sides. In our next video we are going to be finding some unknown angles. When you are looking for an unknown side, the very first thing that we're going to do is label our triangle using opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse given the angle of interest that we have. We're then going to select which ratio we need to use, set up our equation, and then solve. So let's get started with our first example here. Our angle of interest is 46 degrees. I'm looking to find x, and I also have a side length of 11. I can start by first labeling my triangle. 11 is across from the right angle, so this is going to be my hypotenuse. X is across from 46, so it is my opposite. Finally, my last side here is my adjacent side. I need to now pick a ratio that has both O and H in it. A doesn't have any information, it's useless, so I don't need to include it. So I need to have a ratio that has both O and it has H. This is where SOHCAHTOA comes in handy, and so if you need to rewrite it at the start of every question, that's okay. I'm going to write it over here. Okay, so we need to think which ratio, sine, cosine, or tan, has opposite and hypotenuse in it. Well, sine does. Sine is equal to opposite divided by hypotenuse. So I can start setting up my equation that way. I can say sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. We know what theta is. Theta is 46 degrees, so I can say sine of 46 degrees is equal to O, which is x, divided by h, which is 11. Now, in order to clear this fraction, I'm going to multiply both sides by 11. So I'm going to have 11 times sine 46 is equal to x. Now we can do this next step in two steps, or we can do it in one. This time I'm just going to do it in two, and then from then on you can just do it in one go. I need to evaluate sine 46 on my computer, or on my calculator. I make sure I'm in degree mode, so I go sine 46 is equal to about 0.72. So in this case, I'm going to write 11 times 0.72 is equal to x. But if you wanted, you could take this and immediately multiply it by 11 to get your most precise answer. My most precise answer here is 7.9 equals to x. Now the question didn't specify how many decimals I need to be rounding to. I decided to round to the 9 because, you know, we have a 1 and a 2 over here, so it's going to be pretty close to 9. And that is our value for x. If I had been given a unit of measure, I would include my unit of measure there as well. Let's do a second example. My angle of interest here is 27 degrees, and I have been provided with x and with 6. I start by labeling my triangle. My hypotenuse is directly across from my right angle. 6 is opposite my angle of interest. And finally, x is my adjacent side to my angle of interest. I need to pick a ratio that includes both O and A, and that's going to be tan. Tan is equal to O divided by A. So I can set up my equation here. Tan of theta is O divided by A. I know theta is 27 degrees, so I can write tan of 27 degrees is 6 divided by x. Now I need to clear this fraction and get x on its own, so I'm going to multiply both sides by x in order to clear this fraction and give me 6. And then in order to isolate x, I'm going to divide everything by tan 27. That has to be kept together because we know eventually it's going to become a number. So x is going to be equal to 6 divided by tan 27. I can do that straight on my calculator. 6 divided by tan 27 is equal to 11.77 and then a whole bunch of numbers. So I'm just going to round that to 11.8. Again, if your question had specified how many decimals to round to, that's when you would make that decision. X is about 11.8. Okay? Again, we're finding the exact answer as close as possible based on what we are rounding to. So you want to make sure that you're waiting until the very end before typing in your equation into your calculator. I know I had showed you here that we used a decimal to multiply by 11, but at the end of the day, in order to get the most precise answer, you need to be dividing, you need to be doing your math right at the very end there. Let's now do a word problem. On a summer day, you are flying a kite when suddenly it gets caught in a tree. You've let out 7 meters of string and the kite is at an angle of elevation of 39 degrees. How far are you from the tree? Okay, let's consider what angle of elevation means for a second. Angle of elevation means the angle that I have to look up in order to see my kite. So that's going to help me draw a diagram here. I can imagine that I'm standing here. My kite is over in this tree. And we'll do the kite here. Here's my kite. I had let out 7 meters of string, so this length here is 7 meters. I am also looking up at an angle of elevation of 39 degrees, so my face is looking up 39 degrees, and the question is asking how far are you from the tree? So how far is this angle? We can see pretty clearly we have a right angle triangle situation here because my tree is perpendicular to the ground, so I can assume that this is a right angle. And I'm just going to redraw this diagram to make it a little bit clearer now that we have finished off our triangle. So this is going to be the ground, I have the tree, and I have the string of my kite. I'm looking for this. This angle is 39 degrees and this is 7 meters. Okay? Again, in word problems, a lot of it is just getting down the triangle so that you are ready to go and you can solve. First things first, we need to label our triangle based on our side lengths. So we have 7 meters is across from my right angle, so it is the hypotenuse. The blank side here is opposite of my angle of interest, and that leaves me with my third side being A. I need to pick a ratio that includes both A and H, adjacent and hypotenuse, and that is going to be cosine. Cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I can fill in some information. Theta is equal to 39 degrees. A is x, and hypotenuse is 7. In order to clear this fraction, I'm going to multiply the other side by 7, so it'll be 7 times cos of 39 is equal to x, and I can type that into my calculator immediately. 7 times cos 39 is equal to about 5.4, so I'm going to say 5.4 is equal to x. Okay, because this is a word problem, I'm going to finish with a therefore statement. Therefore, I am about, not exactly, about 5.4 meters from the tree. Okay, and so that's how you find an unknown side using your trigonometric ratios.